Hello Scorpio, welcome to your September forecast for the year of 2017. I know I'm extremely late with this video, but hopefully October will be much faster. I'll get started on those videos pretty soon, so be on the lookout for those as well. But I am Kyana Mayfield from LibraLunaCenter.com, and this month, September, has been a preliminary month between the eclipse season, which began in August with the solar eclipse in Leo and the lunar eclipse in Aquarius, and between that and October, which is when Jupiter moves into Scorpio, October 10th. So September being the Virgo season, right? Post-eclipse season and the harvesting of what this whole year has been thus far, right? And this is the last month as well that Jupiter will be in Libra, which will be having a very powerful conversation with Uranus, one of the most powerful conversations of all of 2017. So Scorpio, this month is all about Judgment Day for you. And what that means, I don't mean that in a biblical perspective, but in a way that is prominent in the sense that you are literally at the fork in the road, right? You are literally at the crossroads between one world and the next, right? And this culminated with the full moon in Pisces conjuncting Neptune in your 5th house, which happened on September 6th, right? And this full moon had been the culmination of what had occurred. Think back to February 26th, which is when we had the new moon solar eclipse in Pisces. And this is also, that had also been, February had been when the nodal axis was still in Virgo Pisces. So we were still kind of playing out that mutable story, the Virgo Pisces story. And for you, that had been all about figuring out what your heart actually, what it actually is, right? What you actually want, what you actually love, and aligning yourself with the new world, right? Cleaning up the old to prepare for the new world with the North Node in Virgo in your 11th house. And Scorpio, this full moon culminated all of that, all of the confusion, all of the feeling of being lost, as far as the language of the heart, right? The language of the heart was reset. In the sense that now, since you have come to this place, right? You've come to this place with the North Node and the South Node no longer being in Virgo Pisces. You've come to this place where you have cleaned yourself up to a certain extent, to the point where you are able to distinguish who you are, right? What you want, what your desires are, what emotions actually stem from you, from the core of your being, and which do not, right? Where do you get lost in the emotions of others, right? With the 5th house being ruled by Pisces for you, the 5th house being the center of your heart, right? How you express yourself, as well as the area of love and romance, right? How you enjoy, how you get fulfillment out of life, right? And what you attract to you in order to stimulate your heart, right? But it's almost as if what love, what fulfillment, what joy looks like to you is changing, right? Or as you were able to sort of distance yourself from the other, in a sense that you're able to distinguish what your emotions are and what are not, right? You're no longer getting lost in the merging process, and you're able to create your own identity from this place. You're able to harbor your own sense of self, I would say I keep almost saying self-sufficiency, but it is more along the lines of self-integration, right? Where the stability of who you are is not dependent on another to fulfill your desires, or another to fill the gaps of what you believe you do not encompass within your own being already, right? And this is also speaking to not just love in the sense that, you know, this happens every year, you have a full moon in Pisces and it's resetting the heart for you, but you've been having Jupiter in Libra. We've been having Jupiter in Libra for a year now, and for you it's been in your 12th house, which has been exploring this concept of unconscious patterns, right? Especially in relationships, because it has been in Libra, the sign of relationships, right? And the sign of harmony, ideally, and justice and fairness, and where perhaps the scales have been tipped for you, where the scales have been either oscillating on one side or the other, your side or the others, right? And ideally we meet in the middle, yes, but we attract those who fill the gaps for us, who either weigh out one side of the scale for us or the other, right? Dependent on our unconscious needs, our unconscious motivations, and our unconscious patterns, right? But this full moon, especially conjuncting Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, is looking at not only what your actual dreams are, being able to look at it, especially as we have a stellium in Virgo in your 11th house, which is cutting to the chase, right? Cutting to the bare bottom facts of whatever your world encompasses, right? And what your actual goals and wishes are for the long term. But it's looking at what your purpose is, Scorpio. What your purpose on this planet is. And of course, this is not a very easy question to answer. You'll be having to answer it, though, as the North Node is in your 10th house, right? The North Node in Leo and the South Node in Aquarius at the bottom half of your chart. It will be here for the next year until November of 2018. So this is a question that you don't necessarily have to answer this month, but will be tested this month, right? Especially as we get to the new moon in Virgo, which as you reset the heart, right? On September 6th with the full moon in Pisces, we get to the new moon in Virgo on the 19th of September in your 11th house. And this new moon in Virgo will be opposing Chiron in your 5th as well as squaring over to Saturn in Sagittarius, which is transiting your 2nd house of self-sufficiency, right? Of how you stabilize your identity, right? How you build a new life for yourself based upon what your goals and wishes and dreams are. And the 11th house being the house that rules Aquarius, right? And I think of the 11th house always as just before we get to the 12th house, right? Just before we get to the 12th house for you, which is Libra, which we will by the autumn equinox with the sun moving into Libra on the 22nd, which is going over where Jupiter has been for the past year. But before we get to that point, Scorpio, this Virgo season, and with the stellium in Virgo, with Mercury, Mars, and Venus all in Virgo in your 11th house, this is having you, if you think of, if you go to the traditional tarot deck, we get to the Judgment card. I think of the 11th house as the Judgment card in the tarot deck, right? And what the Judgment card is all about is rising from the grave, right? It's about the awakening process. It's about coming to life on a higher level, right? Awakening to the spiritual realm and awakening to whatever that divine presence may be for you, right? Your higher self. And with that, awakening to your higher self also aligns you with your highest path, right? With your destiny. And this is what that is for you, right? You're aligning with your path by this new moon, right, is as the new moon in Virgo is aiming to find solutions to our pain, right? And the pain for you has been in the heart, has been in how you open or express the area of your heart, right? How you find fulfillment, because there's almost been this itch for you, Scorpio, where you haven't been able to satisfy it, right? You haven't been able to satisfy this particular area where you feel unlovable, perhaps, as Saturn is in the area of your self-value, of your self-esteem, of your self-confidence, and squaring over to Chiron all throughout this year. Sorry about that, Scorpio. Yes, Saturn has been squaring over to Chiron all throughout this year, and for you it's happening in your 2nd and 5th house, right? But there is this underlying theme throughout 2017 where you're having to face your fears regarding your level of self-value, regarding your level of self-love, and how you open your heart to others as well as to yourself, right? And how much you open your heart, how much you get your heart open, right? Affects your destiny. Affects your destiny in a sense that as long as you allow fear to rule you, Scorpio, there is this there's this ball and chain that holds you to a state of stagnation, and how much power you were able to harness within yourself, right? The power either stays inside of you, right? Stays trapped within you, or it is put into constructive use, which Uranus in the 6th for you has been somewhat beckoning you to do, right? To transform how you use your energy. And the story changes based on the people that you're surrounded by, the groups you belong to, the world you inhabit, right? And what insights you gain from these people, right? What insights you gain from the new friendships that you're cultivating reflects onto your heart, right? Either opens or distorts your own heart frequency. And you're needing to distinguish who supports the new world you wish to inhabit, who supports the awakening process for you, who supports the redemption process, and who is a part of this old nebulous, I would say, foggy, confusing world where you are not able to distinguish yourself from the other, right? Where you're trapped in the concept of what others think you are. And this is about true love for you, Scorpio. True love for you is stems from the purity of self, stems from the purity of yourself, right? And like how much of you shows up to the table, how much of you is clean, how much of you is open, how much of you is conscious, right? Consciously here versus participating in the exchange of the unconscious patterns we sort of default to, right? What is the safe zone for you? What is the cyclic karmic loop that has been playing itself out in all of your relationships, right? And all of your friendships, in the entire world that you have been living in thus far. And you're needing to define and construct a plan for the next world you wish to inhabit, right? And you will be fully stepping into this world by the time we get to the end of October, which is when the sun moves into your sign, Scorpio, and we begin your birthday period. But even before then, this is the last moment of Jupiter being in your 12th house. The last moment of Jupiter being in Libra. And you're finally getting to the bottom of what this source of what the source of all of this turmoil has been for you. What all of this what story has been playing itself out unconsciously, right? And constructing the blueprint for a new story. The 12th house is always the transitional phase between the ending of the old and the beginning of the new, right? And you're preparing to have Jupiter in your sign. So this is starting a whole new chapter for you, Scorpio, especially for everyone, but especially for you, right? You're leading the way. You're leading us through it all. And with Jupiter right now being the depositor of Saturn, as Saturn is in Sagittarius and Jupiter rules Sagittarius, right? There's an extra emphasis on Jupiter right now, as far as wherever our soul is leading us, right? Whatever what we identify with as our soul purpose, right? Our life purpose, wherever we feel compelled to expand and to grow. This has a major effect on the life that we're building, right? This is the construction of the life path. And you'll be having a major conversation on September 28th, right? As we have Jupiter in Libra in your 12th, opposing Uranus retrograde in Aries, exact 27 degrees. And for you, this is happening in your 12th and 6th house, right? And on the same day, we have Pluto, your ruling planet, in Capricorn, coming direct. So major emphasis for you, right? And this is the final battle, right? September 28th, this is the final battle. This is the choice for you, Scorpio, to either change your unconscious patterns forever, right? To see what they are and to make the decision to shift out of them, right? To use them constructively, to break out of the hologram, which I've been talking about for several months now. But right now is the final culmination of all of that before we get to Jupiter in Scorpio, because Jupiter in Scorpio makes everything much more intense, right? And it is the far side of either side of the fence. So where Jupiter in Libra stays on the fence constantly, right, without making a decision, it sees the black and the white and it weighs it out constantly, like it's like the the person who sees both sides of the story and can relate to both of them, right? But when Jupiter comes into Scorpio, it is, this is what I believe, this is what I am, this is my path, and it is the commitment to following it through, right? And now is the crossroads, especially for you. The crossroads between the old life and the new life. The crossroads between, especially with Pluto, your ruling planet, coming direct on the same day in your 3rd house of the mind, of your environment, of how you relate to the environment, right? Your control over your mind, your control over your body, and your control over your emotions, right? And your soul as well. The control of the mind-body soul complex, whatever that may mean to you. This is either the high road or the low road. And what is the low road? The low road for you, Scorpio, is the path of suffering. It's the path that you've been in, right? It's the pit. It's the dark night of the soul. That you know, all Scorpios go throughout their entire lives, mostly, until they make the decision to rise out of the grave, right? And you've been in the grave for many, 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 many years now, Scorpio. But when do you choose to get out of the grave? When do you choose to rise from the dead, right? When do you choose to awaken to what's within you? When do you choose to become alive again? And this is that final decision now, right? This is that final fork in the road where you ask yourself if you're willing to do what it takes to attain mastery over yourself. And by attaining mastery over yourself, you attain mastery over your environment. You attain mastery over your mind, especially where the environment has somewhat been controlling your mind, where you have been merging into the other, right? Merging yourself, your heart, your self-expression with the other, right? Where you have not been able to distinguish yourself from the other, and so have been caught in this cyclic loop, in this confusing identity of self, right? And it hasn't been in where that hindrance has kept you from being able to discover what it is that you truly are, who it is that you truly are, right? And Pluto coming direct being one of the most powerful aspects as well in your ruling planet, right? Scorpio, this is two different timelines for you. One is, of course, where you choose to awaken to yourself, where you choose to take control again over yourself and your environment, to take your power back, or you choose to fall back into the pit, to fall back asleep, right? And we can never really do that. Once we're awake, we can never really fall back asleep. So what's really happening is you fall into despair, right? Because there's the cognitive dissonance where you see what you see, but you also put the mirage over what you see. Continue playing the same story over and over again when you see something different in your actual reality, right? So I hope that makes sense to you, Scorpio. But this month, especially by the end of this month, and we come to the Sun in Libra going into your 12th house where Jupiter has been for a year now. This is the final confrontation with your shadow. This is the final confrontation with the unconsciousness that has been subtly, somewhat puppeteering every aspect of your life, right? Subtly controlling you behind the scenes. And you're looking that part of yourself directly in the eye this month, right? And making this decision to either take your power back or to continue being the puppet, right? So I hope you all have a wonderful September, Scorpio. I will be back to discuss October, and be sure to check out your sun, your moon, and your rising/ascendant sign for, as well as any stelliums you may have. So let's say 4 or more planets in a particular sign. You may want to check out that video as well, as it may contain more information in regards to your personal natal chart. And of course, be sure to always, first and foremost, listen to your personal intuition, as this is your internal GPS system, and it is first and foremost number one when it comes to following any sort of intuitive advice. So thank you again very much for watching, Scorpio. If you would like a personal reading with me, I do have links in the description below for you to be able to do so, and I will see you all in October.